Welcome to Diplomacy Podcast. Today I am going to talk about Israel and Gaza. I'd like to take you through one of the most pressing and unresolved issues of our time, the future of Israel and Palestine, and what many call the day after. It has been nearly 2 years since Hamas's October 7th attacks in 2023 and the devastating war in Gaza that followed. Israel has fought with unprecedented military strength, crippling Hamas's leadership and dismantling much of its military infrastructure. And yet, despite these tactical successes, the war remains without a clear political endgame. Why? Because as former Israeli Navy commander and Shin Bet head Ami Ayalon argues, Israel is fighting a war it cannot win, not in the way it's being fought today. Let's begin with Ayalon's core claim. Israel cannot win this war because it misunderstands the type of war it's fighting. In the 20th century, wars were fought between states. Victory meant surrender, borders redrawn, treaties signed. But since the collapse of the Soviet Union, more than 95% of wars worldwide have been between states and non state actors, terror groups, militias, insurgencies. These wars rarely end in decisive battlefield victories. Take Hamas. It's not a state, it is not an army that will march into a tent and sign a surrender document. Its fighters do not wear uniforms. Its strategy is not to win militarily, but to never surrender. Even as leaders are killed, others emerge. Even as infrastructure is destroyed, ideology spreads. Israel has perhaps the most powerful military in the Middle East. But as Ayalon warns, a terror organization will never raise a white flag. The more Israel focuses purely on military precision, bombing infrastructure, killing militants, the more Hamas paradoxically claims victory every day it survives. This is the paradox of modern asymmetric war. You can win every battle and still lose the war. Now, let's shift to the humanitarian dimension. When Israeli forces push into Gaza City, when they bomb Hamas hideouts in crowded neighborhoods, they inevitably kill civilians. Hamas, of course, deliberately uses its people as human shields. But Ayalon stresses something deeply uncomfortable. Even if Hamas is to blame, Israel is responsible. Here's why. Responsibility comes with power. Israel has the military capacity to shape outcomes. Having dismantled Hamas's declared military goals, its leaders, its armed wings, its tunnels, the ongoing humanitarian disaster falls squarely under Israel's control. Today, Gaza faces famine, disease, and mass displacement. And Ayalon warns if Israel continues with military only thinking, the humanitarian catastrophe will not just stain Israel's moral standing, it will also breed the next generation of Hamas fighters. A child who loses his parents to airstrikes, he argues, does not grow up neutral. He grows up radicalized. The lesson here is that ideology can't be bombed into extinction. It must be outcompeted with a better political vision. One of Ayalon's most striking arguments is that Israel already won its existential war, but refused to recognize that victory. He points back to Beirut, March 2002, when the Arab League adopted the Arab Peace Initiative. This was a historic turning point. Arab states moved from the three no's of Khartoum: no peace, no recognition, no negotiations, to three yeses: recognition, negotiation, and peace with Israel based on a two state solution. This, Ayalon argues, was the true victory. It showed that Israel was there to stay. But instead of seizing the opportunity, Israeli leaders turned inward. They stopped believing in diplomacy. They convinced themselves that the world was against them. Meanwhile, so-called diplomatic victories like the Abraham Accords, deals with the UAE, Bahrain, and others, sidestepped Palestinians entirely. By excluding Palestinians, those agreements planted the seeds of October 7th, convincing Hamas that Palestinians were being erased from history. In short, what Israel viewed as progress, Hamas saw as existential threat. Now, let's widen the lens to the region. Some argue that the real issue in the Middle East is Iran, not Palestine. And yes, Iran's nuclear ambitions are a grave threat. But here's the key: the Palestinian conflict is the common denominator across the Arab and Muslim worlds. Iran has weaponized Palestine as a rallying cry. Whoever claims to fight for Palestine gains legitimacy across the Arab street. And in the age of the Arab Spring, public opinion matters more than ever. As Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman once admitted to a US Secretary of State, "Do you think I care about Palestine? Number. But my people do." From Cairo to Riyadh, from Paris to American universities, the Palestinian cause galvanizes masses. It is no longer a marginal conflict. It is a global flashpoint, fusing religion, nationalism, and identity. This means Israel cannot bypass Palestinians through side deals. The path to peace in the Middle East still runs through Ramallah and Gaza City. So, what next? Ayalon presents two futures. The first is the path we're on now: indefinite military campaigns, graver humanitarian catastrophe, endless cycles of violence. In this scenario, Hamas, or something like it, always returns. The second is a path toward a two state solution. This requires outside leadership: Saudi Arabia, France, the US, the EU, to step in with a new framework. Crucially, negotiations must be between states. Palestinians must be recognized as a state first. Why? Because Hamas is not just men with guns. Hamas is an ideology. The only way to defeat it is to offer Palestinians a better horizon, a state of their own dignity and security. If a Palestinian child sees daily progress toward that goal, Ayalon says, he has a reason to choose life over martyrdom. Recognition is not just symbolic, it's a strategic weapon against extremism. But what about Israelis themselves? Polls show deep contradictions. A majority want hostages returned, even if it means moving toward a Palestinian state. Yet many also believe all Palestinians are Hamas. This confusion, Aylan argues, is rooted in fear. Israeli society has lived for decades under existential anxiety, and in fearful societies, people tend to prefer security over rights. Leaders exploit fear to gain power rather than reduce it. History shows that breakthroughs come when leaders dare to break that cycle. Think of Egyptian President Anwar Sadat's 1977 visit to Jerusalem, which changed the course of history, or Yitzhak Rabin, who paid with his life for pursuing peace. As Ayalon puts it, fearful societies need an anchor of hope. Without it, they are doomed to repeat violence forever. So, where does this leave us? We face a stark choice. Israel can continue to chase an elusive military victory, one that can never truly be won, or it can recognize the reality that security comes not from dominance but from coexistence. A two state solution may sound like a dream, but as Aelon reminds us, we have the duty to dream. Without that dream, all that remains is fear, violence, and despair. Thank you for joining me for this episode. If you found this discussion meaningful, share it with others. Because the debate over the day after in Gaza is not just about the Middle East. It is about how the world deals with war, identity, and hope in the 21st century. Until next time, stay thoughtful. This is what I think. What do you think? I appreciate your comments and questions via email or in the comments section. I hope we have stretched our diplomacy thinking a little bit. Feel free to subscribe and see you next time.